Good morning, everyone. We'll get started with today's class. Now, before we get started with the actual topic for today, I want to address a question that was raised yesterday with regard to the low frequency roll-off. So let me go into that. So I think the question that was asked is that when you try to do, when you reduce the frequency and try to look at the low frequency roll-off, you are not able to actually look at it, right? Now, in order to understand that, we should do a little bit of quantitative analysis. So qualitatively, we saw that, the low frequency roll off is because of the three capacitors that are used, right? So if you take a common emitter amplifier, right, and this is what you would have done in your lab. Right, this is the amplifier that you actually would have looked at in your actual lab as well as for our analysis, right? I hope I'm being audible.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. All right. So now, when you look at this particular thing, so we know that let's say this is R1, this is R2, this is RC, this is RE. Correct. Now, the input section. So as we saw in one of the earlier classes, the input section can be seen as C1 with a certain Rin, where this Rin is equal to what? R1 parallel to R2. Basically, Rin is the impedance seen from this side. So this is R1 parallel to R2 parallel to R pi. Now, if CE is not there, you will basically have R1 parallel to R2 parallel to R pi plus beta plus 1 times RE if CE is not connected. Correct? Any doubts on this? I hope everybody is comfortable and clear with these two statements. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So if C is connected, you basically have only R pi. So this is your Rn. So now, as we saw, this CR circuit or Rn and C circuit. Now, if you look at the transfer function, let's say between this V in and V out here, let's call it as V out dash. So V out dash to V in is going to be given by Rn divided by Rn plus 1 by SC1. So this turns out to be S times Rn C1 divided by 1 plus S times Rn C1. Okay, which means that there is a pole at omega equal to minus 1 by Rn C1. Okay, and a 0 at DC, which means that the 3 dB frequency is basically the 3 dB frequency is 1 by Rn C1. Okay. Now, same way, so if you calculate this for your case, I think you would have taken, what was the typical values? Can you just tell me some values that you had taken?
So with CE or without CE?
Any one case, let's take any one case.
So without CE1, we took R1 equal to 112 kilo ohms.
Okay.
R2 27 kilo ohms.
Okay.
And
what was your IC?
IC was 0.95 milliampere.
Okay, so what was your GM correspondingly?
GM, 1 second.
Should be around 0.38, 38 millisiemens, something like
yes,
that.
Yes, sir, 38 millisiemens.
How much beta? Let's say approximately 200. Okay, so beta by GM, you will get R pi of around 5.26 kilo ohm, correct? Now, this is without CE, right? So what was your value of RE? Value of RE, anyone?
So 1 kilo ohm.
1 kilo ohm, okay. All right, so what is your Rn? So Rn becomes R1 parallel to R2 parallel to R pi plus beta plus 1 times Re. Correct? So this becomes 112K parallel to 27K parallel to, you have R pi is 5.26K plus, let's say 201 times, what is this R1K? All right, so how much do you get basically? You can basically take 1 over this 112 inverse plus 27K inverse plus 5.26K plus 201 into 1K, the whole inverse. You get something, and then you take the full inverse, you get 19.67K. Something like that, right? So
Yes,
this is
sir.
your input impedance. Okay. Now the capacitor C1, what did you take? 1 microfarad, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
the F3dB, because of the first pole, is going to be 1 by 2 pi R in C1. Now how much does that work out to be? So it's some 8 hertz, something like this, right? 18.67K into 1 microfarad.
The 8.09. Yes, sir.
Yeah, some around 8 hertz, right? So this is only due to your this first capacitor C1. Okay. Now, if you look at your second capacitor, what is your second capacitor? What is the value? C2 is also 1 microfarad, right? And you had RC is how much? RL is 1K, is it?
So RC is 4.7 kilo ohms. RC.
Okay, right. Now, if you look at the output section, so it basically is RC to ground. You have C2 and you have RL, correct? Of course, R0 is in parallel with RC, which we can kind of neglect. So again, we saw that this is the effective, the tau is basically C2 into RC plus RL. And therefore, F3dB of only due to 2 is nothing but 1 by 2 pi C2 RC plus RL. Correct? It's kind of approximately this. So if you calculate that, so it becomes 2 pi into C2 is 1 microfarad into you have 4.7, 5.7K. So you have around 27.9 hertz. Okay. So this is your second pole. Now you don't have CE, so that doesn't come into the picture. Now, basically what happens is you have two poles which are not very far apart, right? So therefore what happens is, like if you had only due to C1, what will you have? You'll have a response which is like this, right? Where the 3 dB frequency, yeah, the 3 dB frequency turns out to be what? 8 hertz, right? This is only due to C1. Now only due to C2, you have what? You have something which is like this, where this 3 dB frequency is some 27 hertz, right? What is it? 27.9 hertz. Okay. Now, what happens when you put two of these together? All right. Now, if you put two of these together, let's first see what happens mathematically. Okay. Let's say V out by V in now becomes AV times S by 1 plus S by omega P1 into S by 1 plus S by omega P2. This is a very general way of writing, right? You have one pole, let's say this is due to C1. Okay, I think I wrote this way of writing. So if you look at the other actual transfer function, it is S R1 C1. Let's say S omega. Okay, actually I have to write it as S by omega P1, S by omega P2 plus 1 by S R1 R in C1, right? So this can, your omega P is basically 1 by R in C1, and therefore you can write it as S by omega P1 divided by 1 plus S by omega P1. The same thing goes for C2, right? Now, because of this, if you put these things together, what do you get? You get AV divided by omega P1 into omega P2. So this is some constant. S squared divided by 1 plus S by omega P1 into 1 plus S by omega P2. All right. So basically there are two zeros and there are two poles, and therefore you'll have the composite response will kind of look something like this. Okay. Let's say this is log of F. This is 20 log of mod of AV. So because there is a double zero, two zeros, let me write this, two zeros at DC. So basically what will happen, the slope will be minus 40, or sorry, plus 40 dB per decade. So basically what will happen is that this curve will be steep. Okay. This will have plus 40 dB per decade slope. And then let's say your omega P1, which is lower, kicks in, and then it takes a plus 20 dB per decade slope because each zero adds plus 20 dB per decade slope and each pole adds minus 20 dB per decade slope. So initially there are two zeros and therefore you have a steeper response, and then you should see, and then you will basically get the other pole kicking in here, which is omega P2. All right. Now this is how it basically will look like. So how did you take, so what did you observe in lab? So you should basically observe something like this. Now, if you have your omega P3 also due to CE, because now CE has RE here, right? And if you look up, you'll basically get small RE, right? And so you'll get one more zero and a pole combination. Okay. So you will basically get one more. You'll have S cube and three zeros. You will see that in the textbook they would have put it. Now, this is how your plot should kind of look like. So in this case, it's around 8 hertz. And in this case, it is around 27 hertz or 28 hertz. Now, what did you guys observe in lab for these values?
Sir, I think below, 1 second. Around below 100 hertz, there was a little what do you say, fluctuation. So it was going a little bit down, then up. And for 10 hertz, it was around the same value for the mid-band gap.
Okay. Was it a very noisy signal in the oscilloscope?
So around 20 to 10 hertz, it was a little bit noisy.
Okay. Yeah, let's check it up this Friday. I'll ask them to construct at least one circuit and keep it ready based on the values that you had given last time, and let them Let's figure it out. Okay. All right. Now, because in this case, what happens is because omega p1 and omega p2 are close by. Now, what I have drawn is the Bode approximation, which I mentioned is like basically you draw tangents and you draw a line like this. In fact, the actual response will look kind of something like this. Okay. So this is how it will basically kind of be. The more closer you bring, the more deviation you will get in the region closer. Okay. So this is how you would probably see. Yeah.
So this is with C, means this WP1
No,
and
this is
WP
without CE. This is
without.
without CE. Yeah. Now, if you add CE, let me just do it for the sake of completion with CE. Now, what happens is that you have RE. Always when you work with capacitors and time constants and poles and zeros, what you need to do is what is the resistance seen by the capacitor? That is, what is the resistance seen here? Okay. Now, we will see in today's class itself that probably let me just wait for some more time. By the end of this class, let me kind of bring it in. Okay. All right. Now we will switch gears here. So any doubts, any questions? So we looked at common emitter, common source, with and without degeneration. We looked at frequency response, the high frequency role of both qualitatively and quantitatively. Okay, right. We saw why it is happening, and also we saw how we can quantify it into actual numbers, the pole, first pole, second pole. Same way we looked at the low frequency roll off, we saw how we can not only understand it qualitatively and conceptually, but you also can quantitatively see what is the actual number, right? Okay. Now we are totally shifting gears and we are going to the next topology, which is called as common base in the case of BJTs and common gate in the case of MOSFETs. Okay. So for BJTs, we have common base. For MOSFETs, we have common gate. All right. Now, what is the common base configuration? Can you just tell me like what exactly it is actually?
Here base is grounded.
Here base is grounded. Okay, that's good. So let's take BJT. Here base is grounded. So grounded meaning it is at a, okay, let's just start with the ground here, okay? And then where do you give an input, where do you take an output?
Sir, at emitter side,
You
we
not
get
study that?
input. Sir, emitter side,
Yeah,
we will give input.
okay, so you give your input at the emitter side, and then you take your output at the collector side, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in order for, this is the kind of like, what shall we say, a very broad way of, or a very general way of looking at a common base topology, right? That is to say that you ground the emitter, ground the base. The base is common to both the input and the output, which is why it is called as the common base. And you have the input fed at the emitter and the output taken at the collector. This is a very fundamental way of understanding. The same way, how can you, what can you say about a MOSFET, an N MOSFET?
The gate is grounded.
Okay.
And at the source we take the input, and at the
And we take
drain,
the output at the drain, right? Okay. Now, if you look at this circuit is very difficult to make it to work. Okay, we should make it realizable, practically realizable. Now, how do we make it real? Because if you look at it, this has got some plus VCC, this is at 0 volt, and we don't know where Vin is. Correct. So, as in all the other cases, you need a DC current to flow through your transistor so that and you have to make sure that it is in the case of BJTs, and in the case of MOSFETs, you have to make sure that it is in the saturation region, right? Only then you will get the transconductance action and a good R naught and your entire amplification process to happen properly, correct? So in order for that to happen, first of all, current should flow through your transistor. And I have also mentioned earlier, you typically don't want your bias current to flow through your input. Okay, so let us first look at our input. Let's say this is our Vin, and let us say this is our RS. Okay, if you connect like this, first of all, there are two problems here. Okay, first problem is that all your DC current, or rather, let's DC bias current or DC quiescent current flows through Vn, which is a bad thing. You don't want that to happen. So which is why typically what do we do? What do we do to prevent the bias current from flowing into the input? The DC
Input
current from flowing into the input?
Input
Sorry?
capacitance.
Capacitance.
Input capacitance, right? We put one capacitor here to make sure that the DC does not go into your input. Your input will only give you small signal. You will only give small signals. That's it, right? Nothing else. Okay. Now, when you put a capacitor, so this is, let's say, solved. This is solved by putting a capacitor. Okay. Now, there is a second problem. Where will DC flow? Where will DC current flow? Now, you put a capacitor, right? Current is flowing, let's say, trying to flow from VCC through RC through the transistor, and then where?
So we need a additional RE resistance.
Okay, so we need another additional element which connects this to. So let us say you can do it in different ways. You can either put a current source here. Okay, so this is a current source. Or this current source can also be a poor man's current source is that you put one resistor at the input. Okay, you can put one resistance down here, and or you can also put a current source here. Okay, all right. For now, let us just say that we put a current source. Okay. Now, should we ground this? So this problem of where will DC current flow, let's say we are solving by adding a current source at emitter. Now the third question is, where is the other terminal connected? Other terminal of the I source, current source connected. Can we connect it to ground?
No, sir.
Why no?
So current source cannot be short circuit. No.
You're not short circuiting. I'm talking about what do you connect here? Can we connect it to ground? Will it be okay? Or should we give a negative supply?
I think so. We can connect it to the ground.
Okay, let me add one more constraint. The constraint is that a practically realizable current source needs positive voltage across it. Okay, that is this.
Base is grounded, we need it to be negative.
Exactly, right? Your base is already grounded. For the transistor to work, you need at least 0.7 here. So this node voltage automatically should be at minus 0.7. Correct. So if you ground it here, this will basically not work. So you need to give it to a negative supply. Okay. So instead of doing this, let's give it to minus VEE. Okay. So now, of course, the other things we already know, we'll just add C2 here, and then you'll have RL here, and this is your V out. Okay. So now we have a more practical version of the common base amplifier. Is it clear? Any doubts? Any questions?
Sir, how did we solve the second problem?
We added a current source at the emitter. This one.
Sir,
Oh,
sir, what
yeah.
happened? Sir, what happened if we add resistor here?
We can add a resistor. We can add a resistor. We will come to that actually. What will happen is we will look at the input impedance and so on. Just wait for a moment. No, maybe wait for 5 minutes. You'll get the answer. Okay. So let's try to analyze this circuit for now, and then we will get the answers for all these things. So let us try to do the small signal analysis of this particular circuit. Okay. So if you let me redraw it for the sake of clarity. Now the thing is, before I redraw it for this thing, suppose you have only a unipolar supply. That is, you have only VCC and ground. Okay. Now, how will you modify this circuit? Let me just, any ideas?
So didn't understand what in unipolar.
Okay, unipolar means you are having only VCC and ground. There is no minus VEE. Okay. So in this particular circuit, we said that we had plus VCC here. And this is minus VEE here. And we grounded this base. Now, suppose I'm telling you that this is not possible. What will you do? It's actually a very simple solution. You can guess.
Why not possible?
Resistor
Sorry?
bias, sir.
Yeah, resistor
Sir.
bias for? I
Sir,
think
you are
two, three people are trying to talk, so I'm not able to hear.
Resistor
Sorry.
bias
Can
for
you-
VEE, sir.
Resistor bias for VEE.
Yes.
No, I'm telling you that no. Okay, even if you take a resistor bias, how will you do? You only have this is grounded. This is VCC. Anything you tap between will be only positive voltage, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, we can increase VCC and we can put some positive voltage at base and we can ground the emitter. This will work, I thought.
Very good. That's it. So you can leave the same VCC, right? Here, instead of doing this, you ground it here. See, when we say a common base and the base is grounded, what we basically mean is that it is an AC ground. Okay. So when we say base is grounded, it basically mean it is connected to an AC ground. All right. So which means that you can always put one resistive divider here and ground it here. That's it. So some R1, R2 is there to provide some DC voltage to your base, and whatever DC voltage is there, you have 0.7 here, and the rest of it is across this current source. And this current source can also be implemented as a resistor. So whatever it is, that is fine. Understood. So automatically you get a a version of the circuit which can work with the unipolar supply. Okay, bipolar means you have two polarities, plus and minus. Let's say +5, -5, +9, -9. Right now, what you guys are doing in the lab is basically with the unipolar supply. Of course, we have the capability for bipolar also, but I think we just use unipolar for this case. Any doubts, any questions? Right. All you need to do is connect the base to a DC voltage. It is automatically at AC ground. Okay. Similar to your, let's say, your common emitter with emitter degeneration. When you had emitter degeneration, what happened? Like your emitter is no longer connected to ground, right? Like let's look at the circuit here, right? So in this case, when you add RE for the purpose of bias stabilization, your emitter is no longer at DC ground, right? But what happens is, it is at AC ground in the case of common emitter. And in the case of common emitter with emitter degeneration, it's no longer at AC ground also, but then anyway, that degeneration comes into the picture, right? So here the base, you're basically putting it at DC ground. So you can make the circuit work with both bipolar as well as unipolar supplies. Any doubts, questions? Okay,
Sir,
all right.
Q point
Yeah.
current, sir, what is? So what is Q point current?
Okay, this is a quiescent current. Okay, quiescent current meaning that, okay, quiescent, okay, I don't know if my spelling is correct. QIE, QUI, I think this is whatever, quiescent current basically means the DC current that flows when V in, the small V in is 0. Or let me say VAC is 0. All right. That is, you are not giving any AC signal to your circuit. What is the current that is flowing? That is your Q point or the quiescent point or your bias point. Okay, all are equivalent terms to denote the state of the circuit when there is no input. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now let us draw the small signal equivalent circuit. Okay. Now, in order to analyze this circuit, it is a lot easier if we use the T model of the BJT. Okay. So what is the T model of the BJT? So you have alpha times IE. You can also analyze it using pi model. Okay. It's not that you cannot do, only thing it's a little more laborious. Otherwise, it is still fine. So if you look at the circuit here, you have RC, the transistor grounded here, current source, capacitor, input. I mean, you can analyze it for either both bipolar or unipolar, it doesn't matter. The small signal equivalent circuit remains the same, right? So if you take the BJT alone, this is your collector terminal, right? This is your emitter terminal, and this value is RE, which is actually given by alpha by GM, correct? And this current source is alpha times IE, where IE is the current that is flowing like this, right? And then you have your base here. This is your base terminal. Now, how is the connection made? This is your T model that we saw earlier. Now, first of all, your base is grounded. So let's go and ground it. So even if it is given to a DC supply, it's still an AC ground. So connect the base to ground, right? Now, what happens to the collector? Your collector is connected to RC to ground, RC to AC ground. Capacitor is a short. You have RL to AC ground. This is your Vout, right? What happens at the input? Your input is connected to, let's say, RS, and you have your VN. Okay. This is your small signal equivalent circuit. Okay. Now, first let us try to find out what is the input impedance of this structure. Okay. Now, in order to do the input impedance, what do? Basically, we will how will you find the input impedance of the circuit? Tell me.
Sir, using test voltage and test current.
Correct.
Should
So in order to find the thing, you basically connect a test voltage source. This whole part is not there, right? So if you connect a test voltage source here and you find the test current here, what is your test voltage source and what is your test voltage current? So let's say IT is defined as flowing like this. What is IT?
Sir, minus IE.
the
It is minus IE. That is correct, which is equal to. Anyway, this left hand side part is gone, right? The VN and RS is gone when you're trying to calculate your input impedance. Correct.
Excuse me, sir.
VT
Yeah.
divided by IE.
Sir, why haven't we added R0 also?
Yeah, you can add or not, but typically you neglect it because it's quite large. Okay,
sir.
let me just add that note. R0 is neglected. Or else you'll have an R0 like this. Okay. Okay, right now let us just say R0 is neglected. Now what is V? Yeah, somebody said, so this current is nothing but you have VT divided by RE
RE.
because
RE.
this node is basically grounded. That's it. So VT by IT is how much? RE, which is nothing but alpha by GM. Okay. So your input impedance is given by alpha by GM, which can be very well approximated as 1 over GM. Now, is this a large value or is this a small value?
the small.
Sir, very small.
It's a small value, right? So for example, if you take IC is 1 milliampere, your GM turns out to be 40 millisiemens, right? And therefore your Rn will be equal to what? 1 divided by 40 millisiemens, that turns out to be 25 ohm. Correct. So you have, it's a very, very low value compared to what you got in your common emitter and common emitter amplifier or common emitter amplifier with emitter degeneration. Now here in the small signal equivalent circuit, we neglected this current source because all DC current sources are set to 0. So if VCC is set to 0, that is why we connect it as an AC ground. Here it is a DC current source, which means that there is no AC current flowing through it. So which means that this is an open, right? Correct. That is why we have neglected I0 here. Is that clear? You set all the DC to 0, or rather when you do a small signal equivalent circuit, you see whether there is any small signal current flowing through this DC current source. A DC current source cannot take any AC current. So it becomes an open circuit for AC signals, which is why it is left as open and you are connecting only RS and VN. All right. So this is how you basically get. Now, let me come to the point that somebody raised. So you said like, okay, why not use a circuit which is like this? Why not use, let's say, this is R capital E and you have VN, RS, V out. Okay. Now you can do this. Okay, sorry, this is not grounded. This is minus VEE. Now in the small signal equivalent circuit, what will happen? You get, let's say, alpha times IE and you have RE. This is grounded. And then what do you have here? At the emitter, you have this resistor R capital E, to which you are connecting your RS and VN. Okay. Now, if you were to do the small signal if you want to calculate the input impedance, what do? You connect a test voltage source VT here, and then you measure the IT here. Now, what is going to be your input impedance here? Can you tell me?
The RE
Sir.
parallel to capital RE.
Exactly. becomes R small e parallel to capital RE, which is nothing but alpha by GM parallel to capital RE. Okay, so this is the only change that will happen. All right. So if you wanted to, of course, your RE, this is what will happen. So this is also fine. You can basically do that. All right. Now, what is our R out? Output impedance. So let us again draw this small
Sir?
signal equivalent circuit, alpha
Sir?
IE. Yeah.
Can you go to the previous page?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I didn't draw the other stuff here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Tell me.
Nothing, sir. Just noting.
Okay. 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 All right. So now let's take this circuit and try to find out what the output impedance, right? So let's say this is grounded, and let us just say, you know, this is how this is V in. You have RS, and this is your output impedance, right? Without your RL, correct? So when you look at this, you try to find the output impedance by looking here, correct? Now, how do we do that? We do that by connecting a test voltage source here and try to measure IT while setting V into 0. So if you set V into 0, what happens? Anyway, it really doesn't. V into 0, then there is no. So IE is defined as this one. So when V in is 0, it means that IE becomes 0, small IE, right? And anyway, alpha times IE also becomes 0, which means it becomes an open circuit, and all you're left with is what? RC with your VT. Therefore, your R out is equal to what? RC. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, this amplifier also, so let's look at this particular aspect, your input impedance being really low. Okay. Now, there are certain cases in which there is a requirement for your input impedance to be low. Okay. Now, some of the examples are like, let's say your TV receiver. It is also used in RF circuits where you have matching. I think you're parallelly doing the electromagnetics course also, where you talk about matching and things like that. If you look at the old cable television, you will see that if you look at that connector or even at the back of the old TV, it will be written 75 ohm. I don't know how many of you have seen that, right? You will have something called as 75 ohm. So now this is nothing but what is called as the characteristic impedance, okay, of the TV cable and the entire TV, the cable television system, okay, and even the antenna, the olden day antenna, that kind of a stuff, right? Now, what is characteristic impedance? I think you will learn in the EM theory course. So what happens is, in order to make sure that there are no reflections and so on, you have to make sure that the input impedance of the first amplifier sitting inside your television to have an input impedance which is equal to the characteristic impedance. Okay. The first stage, so this is also true in all your mobile phones, all wireless receivers and so on. Okay. So in your wireless receivers, your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile communication, 2G, 3G, 4G, whatever you have, always what happens is you have an antenna and then it goes to what is called as a low noise amplifier. Okay. And the important thing is that this input impedance, the Rin or the Zn, should be equal to the impedance that is required. So for your mobile communication, Wi-Fi and all that, it is actually equal to 50 ohm. All right. So people make use of a topology, something like this, a common base amplifier or a common gate amplifier, to give you that low input impedance such that you are able to receive those signals properly. Okay. So all these receivers, RF receivers, TV receivers, all of them make use of, this is one of the potential candidates for all those receivers. Okay, the common base or common gate amplifiers. Okay. Of course, there are other topologies, there are other ways of providing input impedance of 50 ohm or 75 ohm, which is also there. But this is one of the candidate architectures for providing you with an input impedance of 50 ohm. Okay. So with this, probably I will conclude the class today, and I will continue the rest of the stuff tomorrow. Okay. Any doubts or any questions in whatever material we saw today?
Sir, in
Yeah.
the previous page,
This one.
sir, no, one more previous. Yes, in this one. So in this one, we have Vn is grounded because in AC analysis. And sir, RS is why we removed that RS because it is on the other.
Yeah. So the thing is, see, this is the actual amplifier. When you say I want to find out my Rin, you're looking at this part. Okay.
Yes, looking from common, yes, emitter. That's why we remove the RS.
Emitter.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. This whole thing together is the source. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So as a rule, what happens is when you look at something through the emitter, its impedance is kind of RE. Okay. So if you look, for example, which is why I said, if you look at this particular thing, okay. Now the impedance, this is the common emitter amplifier, which you did in lab with the emitter degeneration, but you put a capacitor across it. Now what happens is, like if you look at the resistance from this point, looking up, you basically get RE, small RE. So it becomes small RE parallel to capital RE into CE 1 over 2 pi. This is your F3 dB because of the third capacitor. All right.
Sir, Rn will
So this
be
is,
small re in parallel to capital Re. So Rn.
yeah. Now this is the common emitter amplifier, right? Where you have the emitter degeneration here. Okay. So in this case, when you want to find out the pole due to CE, you have to basically, so we looked at what is the pole 1, pole 2, right? Pole 1 is this, and pole 2 is given by this, right? The third pole is basically given by this. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Okay, we'll conclude with this class. We'll conclude with this one for this class, and we'll continue in the next class. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.